What a week, man. Like, that was
a week.
Was a phenomenal wedding on Saturday, though.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, dude, I was impressed. You did a great job.
Oh, man. Thank you.
That pizza station.
I'm loving that more people are going for the pizza station.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's and everyone was so surprised when they walked out the door. Like, you had the beautiful buffet, and everybody had just gotten their plates, and they were hanging out, and then they made their way out on the back deck. Boom.
Yeah,
there's pizza.
Well, I really like that it's kind of like this little sort of like fast food sort of, it's got like a truck vibe. Like, it's just a cute little station. We got that Uni 900-degree pizza oven.
Oh yeah, and that got some comments. It always does.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you got the Uni.
It's all we always get comments from other Uni owners.
Yeah.
It's like having it's like being in CrossFit or owning a Tesla. Like, every time you see one, you have to interact with somebody who has one.
Right.
It's not as douchey as either of those two examples. I'm Scott.
I'm Austin.
And you're listening to Everybody Raved,
the Southern Bride's Wedding Guide.
Hey, Austin, what a week, man.
Hey.
I feel like we've hit the ground running with spring weddings. We've got our early spring weddings. Next, kind of from here on out, here until the dead of summer, where our weekends are chock full of multiple weddings.
We love this time of year.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be back in the swing of things.
Yeah.
And so far, 2025 is looking great, man. We've had some pretty big, pretty complicated weddings so far this year, and I'll be darned if they haven't gone off without a hitch.
Yes.
So congrats on that.
Good
work.
You.
Today, I thought it would be good for us to talk about something which is kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I would say almost across the board, everyone hates it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tipping your wedding vendors. It's a complicated... Tipping brings the tipping culture, I find right now, enrages a lot of people. Brings out a lot of strong emotions.
Yeah,
and it's certainly fraught. There's and there's arguments on both sides. I certainly get it. Part of me is like, hey, charge what you need to charge, and then let's be done with it.
Right.
I personally don't like to haggle. Like, anytime I've ever bought a car, like I've always had all this like sort of, stress and I don't want to look like a chump, but I don't want to have to haggle. I want to just know how much it's going to cost. I want it to be a fair price. I want to pay it.
Right.
So I get that, but we do still live in a world where in the hospitality industry, tipping is a thing.
Yeah.
And so I've done a ton of research and I've got some standardized sort of price points and who needs to be tipped and who doesn't. And we're going to go through them and talk about them.
Yeah.
And maybe a few tips on how to deal with it. It's something you need to think about. Budget for your gratuities. So at the very beginning, budgeting is one of the first things that you're going to do as a couple in preparation for your wedding. And I think it is essential that you budget for your gratuities.
Yeah.
And then as you get sort of, you start selecting the individual vendors, because your contracts are gonna really spell out whether or not gratuity is included with that service.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And that's going to be real. That's information that you'll have early on.
Yeah.
To help to put your budget together. So really make sure you're reading all those contracts and you're asking your vendors point blank, is gratuity included? And a little pitfall with that.
Yeah.
A service fee is not the same as a gratuity.
Yeah.
When we write an invoice, for example, for catering, we have a service fee, and that is literally the cost of each individual staff member. And the reason we break that out of the catering is because there's a ton of variables that will determine the number of staff that we deem is appropriate for your event.
Yeah.
For example, perhaps it's a large venue where the area for the cocktail party is particularly far away from the kitchen, so that may require an extra staff member just to make sure we're able to get past hors d'oeuvres out.
Right.
Maybe you've got a lot of chef stations involved in your menu. Maybe you have rented plates rather than, disposable ware.
Yeah.
So that requires more staff to sort of wrangle those renters.
Yeah.
So that's why we break out a service fee. And a lot of people will assume that a service fee is gratuity, and it generally is not.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, and I feel like I'm speaking for all vendors, at least all vendors that I've talked to about this, a gratuity is just that. It is not required.
Right.
In certain cases, more than others, it may be expected.
Yeah.
And it's and it's certainly appreciated.
Yeah.
But if you're down to the wire and your budget is what it is.
Yeah.
And then that is what it is. A gratuity is not a requirement.
Right. Right.
But it is appreciated, and
sure.
in a lot of places it is certainly customary.
Right. Right.
Your bar staff, for example, something that I think people really need to think about, and I have some strong feelings about this, is your bar staff is going to probably have a tendency to want to put a tip jar out.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of old school in this belief, but I am very, especially at a wedding.
Yeah.
I am very anti tip jar.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to put something that is going to make a guest feel that they are obligated to tip.
Yeah.
And you don't want your guest to have to pay to be at this event. This is hospitality, and you're providing this event.
Yeah.
So I have always been very anti-tip jar. That's something that you really have to talk about with your bartending company. You really need to. Usually they're going to ask, but I think it's good practice to always say, "Hey, I want to make sure there's not going to be a tip jar out."
Yeah.
However, when you do that, I feel like it really is your responsibility then to take care of that bar staff.
Right. Right. If you're going to say something, then offer an alternative.
That's right. Another great tip. You want to prep these tips in advance, meaning you're going to want to figure out exactly who and how much you're tipping.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to get that cash out. I think like a week before. There's so many things that the 3 nights prior to the big day.
Yeah.
There are just so many things that are happening and that you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
So go to that ATM. And pull out the cash that you need, well in advance, a good week in advance.
Yeah.
You want to have everybody's tip in an envelope. You want to have it labeled and super easy, no mistakes. And then you want to assign someone that's going to be responsible to pass out those tips.
Right.
Now, traditionally, if you've got a wedding planner, that's a role for them.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to present them with your stack of gratuity that's all been labeled and enveloped.
Yeah.
And then that planner becomes responsible to make sure she divvies out those tips.
Yeah.
If you don't have a planner, a parent, I see that a lot. Like a parent also traditionally gives out tips to the staff, one of your parents.
Yeah.
Definitely someone that you can trust and that, you don't have to worry about it. Getting that done in advance, I can't say enough. That's a very helpful thing. So with that, let's talk about the actual individual vendors that you may or may not be deciding to tip.
Right.
So firstly, there's your wedding planner.
Yeah.
You're looking at 15 to 20%, which is kind of the magical set of numbers. We're going to see that over and over again.
Yeah.
15 to 20% of the total fee that you pay for the planning services.
Yeah.
Is a good tip for the wedding planner.
The wedding planner's with you from the very beginning. You probably formed some sort of personal, rapport with them to some degree. How do you feel about a personal gift?
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that works with a few of your vendors.
Yeah.
Your hairstylist and your makeup artists for the day of.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those categories of vendors that you really are expected to tip.
Yeah.
To be honest, they're going to expect a tip.
I tip my hair stylist.
Sure. And in this case, it's a special day.
Yeah.
They realize the pressure that's on. They
Right.
realize how important this is. They've come to your location.
Yeah.
I feel like a 15 to 20% of their services rendered is totally appropriate. Also, your wait staff and your bartenders, that's another good sort of vector to use to determine that tip. So your catering staff, you're going to want to find out how many wait staff will be on site.
Right.
You want to find that out prior to. You're probably going to know that. And then again, 15 to 20% of the total catering bill divided by the number of staff. There's a lot of discussion about whether or not it's appropriate to tip the owner of a small business. So say you've got a caterer and he's there working and he owns his business.
Yeah.
There's kind of a lot of a consensus that you don't need to tip him as the owner of his business. He sets his own prices, et cetera.
Yeah.
I feel like that's okay. I get that.
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of cases, the small business owner will be, maybe he's the only worker in his, maybe they own a cake baking company and
DJ.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like in those cases, a tip is appreciated.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of that's going to depend on your relationship that you've had with that particular vendor.
Now, how do you feel about somebody giving you a sum to split up between wait staff?
Yeah, that works great. I think that's absolutely acceptable to sort of say, okay, we've allotted $300 to tip wait staff.
I
don't know how many waiters there are.
That would never offend me.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Right.
That's absolutely acceptable. The officiant. It's very traditional to tip the officiant.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things you need to think about. So if you're being married at a venue and maybe there's a minister there, maybe it's a notable person or just a friend of the family.
Right.
Kind of the traditional officiant sort of range of tips, it goes from about $100 to $500.
Okay.
Now, I would say that, say you're at a venue that's not affiliated with any kind of sort of church, and you've got a vendor, an officiant that's marrying you there at that venue. I think $100 is great. It's fine.
Yeah.
Now, if you're getting married at your church or at a religious sort of institution, a synagogue, a church, a temple, then rather than a tip to the minister or officiant, you make a donation to the congregation. If you belong to that church, traditionally you give a larger donation. So when I say 100 to 500 is kind of the range of officiant tipping. The 500 end is, say you're getting married at your family church, and you're making that donation to the church itself. And I think that in those instances, it is more common to do a larger sum, like $300, $400, $500. Photographer, videographer. This is another vendor that probably isn't expecting a tip.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot where we're looking at really $50 to $250 range.
Yeah.
And then you really want to make sure that you're tipping all of the photographers that are on site. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If you're going to tip someone, then you should really tip the entire team.
Yeah.
Or be prepared for the main photographer that you're potentially handing an envelope of cash, that they're going to divide that up between their on-site team. I think that would be best practice. So really think about 50 to 150 to 200 times the number of team members for those photographers. Usually you're looking at 2 or 3. Your DJ. Now, your DJ is another one of those, is another vendor that I think is probably, flip of the coin as to whether or not a client's going to tip them. I personally think it's good to tip your DJ.
Yeah.
We're talking about $50, $150, 50
Yeah.
to 150, I think is the range that I see. And I would say the same thing for your baker. probably a tip and a thank you card of $50 to $150.
Yeah.
Photo booth attendant.
Oh.
Yeah, we see a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think I think we're looking at like a $50 to $100 sort of range.
Yeah.
Transportation. So that would be like your limo. That would be
Shuttle buses.
shuttles for sure.
Yeah.
Your limo. That's really the company that
Yeah.
you may even be hiring an individual who has a classic car or something for your. I think what I'm seeing is what I see is about 15% of your total bill.
Yeah.
I think is customary.
Total bill for the transportation.
Total
not
bill
for the
for the transportation, right?
Right.
That's the case with all of these percentages.
Yeah,
Now they're
yeah.
percentages of the bill.
The particular
So
service.
your wedding planner's not getting 15 to 20% of all of your entire budget. She's
Yeah.
getting 15 to 20% of the bill that she charged. Musicians, everywhere I've seen $25 to $50 per musician. That feels right to me. If you're using, a violinist for your ceremony,
Yeah.
that would apply to them as well. Anyone involved in the music, I think 25 to $50 per team member is great.
And don't forget about the sound guy.
Well, yeah, probably going to forget about the sound guy.
Everyone does.
Valet.
Yeah.
So your valet, what I find is we're really talking about number of cars parked.
Yeah.
So what I think you're looking at is a $1 to $5 per car.
Okay.
And also you want to make sure, same as with your bartending, that there are no displayed requests for tips from guests.
Yeah.
A lot of valet companies and bar companies, for that matter, they say in their paperwork, we do not allow gratuity from the guests.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not suggesting that that's something that you need to have in a bartender for them to be chosen.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a good policy, and I think that it's always important that you check up on that, because I do think that's one of those things. You don't want to solicit tips from your guests. Guests will always, of their own, if a guest pulls out a 20 and puts it in the hand of the bartender because they're having a really great scotch all night, they want it in a really particular way, I think that's perfectly fine. But putting a bowl out of singles, I don't think that's a good look. So that's kind of your big list of vendors that you need to consider.
Yeah.
Again, I said it at the top of this. There's no tip greater than a fabulous review. That's something that, particularly if you're in a budget and you just can't, rather than get angry about the fact that you can't quite fit tipping into your budget, which we're talking about. $2,000 when it's all said and done. I mean, it's a line item. It's a lot.
Oh, sure.
And again, if tipping is not, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But I think if you're not able to make it work, then certainly a gesture, a handwritten thank you note is always appreciated.
Yeah.
But there's just nothing like the value of that 5-star review and that sweet review.
I think maybe it's worth considering who that applies to. Like you were saying, someone who owns a small business and shows up as the one person running their small business,
that review means so much.
Absolutely.
It's so
does.
helpful and
Yeah.
valuable,
Yeah.
and also just a really sweet way.
The flip side of that is maybe it might not mean as much to the high school kids running the valet that night.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Or the cater waiter staff.
I didn't want to say that, but
Yeah, I mean, I think I certainly understand people's opinion that tipping has gotten out of control.
Sure.
I hear that we all hear that all the time, and certainly when you're looking at something like this where you've got just a laundry list of vendors that you need to decide whether or not to tip.
Yeah.
it's a lot. But if you think about, who think about the waiters, the bartenders, maybe your valet, people that are really going to appreciate that, people that are probably gig workers, and they maybe got like a few of these jobs. I mean, I think it's everyone comes with so much energy for a wedding.
Yeah.
This is an event that's unlike other catered or orchestrated events. It's just sort of the pinnacle of events.
Right.
It's the top.
Yeah.
So everyone's bringing their A game. I know what we do. There's no pressure like the pressure of performing for a wedding. You really want to make sure that it's perfect.
Yeah.
So I think in this case it's a place to maybe put down your strong libertarian beliefs that tipping is un-American, and just kind of go with it.
I think at the end of the day, maybe it comes back on the business owner, the vendor themselves, taking care of the people that do work for them, to a degree where a tip isn't something that they're depending on. It's just something really, really nice that shows appreciation, because we all know, we all feel it every single time. We no matter how many weddings we do, we know it's probably the most money you're ever going to spend in a day. And we know that it's one of, if not the most important day of your life. So, we're all working hard. And that's my 2 cents on it.
Right. Yeah. 2 cents, not a valid tip.
No.
What a show we have today. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. Some of my fave people are here today. We've got Josh and Aaron.
Yeah.
From Joshua Aaron Photography. There is no and in that.
Right.
Two just phenomenal people that I've worked with for literally years and years. Yeah. They're great photographers. They bring a great energy. I'm really excited to hear some of their tips and tricks.
Me too. Might learn a thing.
We've also got a dear friend and your best man.
Yeah.
Nathan Vaughan is going to come in to talk about sort of the up and coming world of mocktails. We're seeing every time we turn around now, there's a new article about mocktails and how we should have mocktails at our weddings and at our restaurants. And it's a great new trend.
Yeah.
It's a great way to control alcohol consumption at your very, very long reception.
Something to consider.
Yeah.
Very much
so. So he's got some fun ideas and tricks and tips for us there.
Awesome.
And then, of course, we also have Andrew Stinson on today with another fast, hard florist tip.
Yeah.
Great show. I'm really excited about it.
Same here.
I'll see you on the other side.
All right, let's get to it.
Guys, welcome so much to the pod. We're so excited to have you. You are two of my favorite people in the Columbia wedding scene. You guys have always been a delight. You're always so warm, and I feel as a caterer, I don't feel that we're at odds with photographers necessarily, but it's always the vendor I feel like that I have the least sort of connection to. And I'll take it even a step farther, that sometimes I have a little animosity towards the photographer because there's this thing that happens, and I get why it happens. I understand why this is a phenomenon, but I'll be setting up the buffet, and you guys know me. We're a maximalist with buffet design. It's sensory overload, and I can garnish into like for hours. Like if I just kept garnishing and the wedding never happened, I would be garnishing for weeks. So it's very important to us, the aesthetics of what we do, and without fail, in that time, usually when the cocktail party's going on, the cocktail hour, and maybe a third photographer, a secondary photographer, will be just like taking pictures of all the food buffets when they are clearly in no state to be taken photographed. You know what I'm saying? Empty chafing dishes, platters that are, or I'll be standing literally right there, like doing it. And what bothers me is that will then be the only pictures of the food that they'll take. And you guys never do that. And you also always seem to like, another pet peeve that I have as a caterer, super niche pet peeve, so take that with a grain of salt, is that there just won't be any food photography at all, you know? And that's something I can always say about you guys. Always take some time to appropriately photograph my food. And I know that it isn't my day, but it makes my day. So thank you so much for that.
Of course,
It's worth photographing. So
That's true. Because you take the time.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of start at the top. How long have you been in the wedding photography industry?
Officially?
Yeah, officially.
It's
2009.
It's marriage minus one, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, 16 years.
Sort of. Yeah.
So you never shot weddings prior to you shooting weddings as a team, as a married team?
Correct.
Was there other photography in your life prior to that? And then you guys got together and were like, hey, let's...
Very loosely.
Really?
Yeah.
For me, no.
I took pictures of buildings and squirrels and flowers, and I like cameras.
And you're kind of a tech guy, right? I always kind of think of you as a tech dude.
Yeah, we had...
Well, Josh did film photography in high school.
I did. A lot of dark rooms.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah. And I mean, I grew up with, a little Kodak point and shoot film camera and different stuff. So yeah, I mean, I've played with cameras my whole life.
What's your advice for a bride and groom just starting the planning process when choosing a photographer? Because I know with me, I don't know anything about photography. I don't think I would even begin to know where to begin.
I would say, obviously, budget is just a hard fact.
Yeah.
Everybody
Math.
has a budget. Math. Actual, do I have this money? But I would say don't go into planning your wedding with such a set idea of what you're going to spend, especially on photography. Because there is such a range. And if you're not sure, if you're thinking, oh, well, maybe I only have $2,000 to book a photographer, I'm only going to look at photographers that are $2,000. I would say find out what you like. Contact those people and just ask to get pricing, but ask to see galleries. See a full gallery from each photographer that you're considering, because you might look at the $2,000 photographer and go through the full gallery and be like, you know what, I'm okay with that. Or you might look at that and be like, oh,
This is not what I saw on the Instagram.
This isn't like the full view of what I was expecting. And then, but you can go to with us, I always am happy to share full galleries. I want you to see what you're going to get. There's no surprises with us. And so I think being able to do that, and then a huge red flag is in my opinion, if a photographer isn't willing to share a full gallery with you, run away.
Nice. That sounds like a hot take. That's a good tip. Pro tip.
Yeah. But, you might find okay, now I see why this person is $1,000 more expensive. Maybe I can move some things around in my budget to make this work.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's with any big purchase in life, it's like sometimes you go in with an expectation and it's just not realistic to get what you want.
Do you think that as a married couple, do you think that brings something kind of special and different into the way that you photograph weddings, the way that you maybe relate to brides and grooms?
We asked ourselves this question earlier today, and my response was, we don't really know any other way. But I guess it's hard to say no, it doesn't affect us at all. I mean, I think absolutely yes, it does. Just because we can, we have that experience for being married for 17 years. So when there's a couple they're still a new couple, they're still babies. They don't know what they're doing. And one of them might say something awkward or really stupid to the other one. We can kind of rush in and gloss over everything. But there are huge chunks of the day where we're working independently. Like Josh will never come into the bridal suite to do pictures with the bride and the bridesmaids. Well, I'm never going to go hang out with the groom and the groomsmen. So there are huge chunks of the day that are.
Do you have to plan the day out, sort of lay it out outline style as to who's going to be doing what, or is it something that you kind of have to do in the moment because of all the variables that come up?
Usually not that specific, but I mean we kind of know what we're doing, and I think this kind of goes back to the being married thing, is that female perspective, male perspective, or and Aaron's hanging out with the bride and I'm with the groom, or however that goes. And that's really the only part of the day that's just kind of assumed, like, I'm going to be here doing this thing, you're going to be there doing that thing. And then from there, I mean, a lot of it's just together. And so, like, in terms of redundancy, if I look over and I see Erin's got her 70 to 200 millimeter lens on, I'm going to start using my wide, to try to get a different, perspective and all, different framing and all that. So, always try to, like, not do the exact same thing. Now, usually I think you mentioned cake cutting, but I was thinking, like, first kiss. We're usually both using our zoom lenses for that, get a nice, closer up shot. And if Aaron is going portrait orientation, I'm going landscape orientation. It's just to always.
That's really cool.
Get something different.
We'll look at each other and point and, like, up and down.
Usually
it's
side. Aaron's like, I'm doing this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this.
So I definitely see that as a benefit for knowing each other so well. So you live together, you're married, you're raising a child together, you work together. You ever just want to choke him, just push him out of a moving car?
I mean, I would be dumb if I said no. I mean, sometimes he's rather charming though, and he's very handy.
You guys are sickening in your cuteness.
I can't get mad at him too much because he brings me a cappuccino every single morning.
I hate that.
I know.
I hate that.
So
I guess you're very happy.
I can only be so mad at Josh.
It always seems like just a delicate balance of getting the shots that you need and staying out of the way for important moments like the ceremony and stuff like that. How do you balance that? I mean, and where do you cross the line if I need this shot, this is going to be so important, this is what I'm here to do, but I am going to be in front of grandma. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so we
Don't skip leg day.
Yeah, right. Oh, so much crouching.
Low knee
bend. Yeah, I mean that is kind of our thing. I think subconsciously these days is just we're always out of the way. We're never standing directly in front of the parents or anything like that. We don't want to be right up in the couple's business during the ceremony. That's just not our thing. That's not our style. We carry lenses where we can be properly, far away and still capture everything. And that's just how we've always done it. Like, I don't want anyone looking at me. And
I think over the years, we've just kind of developed a way to do a dance with everyone that is experiencing the wedding and us capturing the wedding. Even with if we're in a ceremony situation where we're allowed to be wherever we want and the couple has given us, free reign, we could be up there if we wanted to. We even do a little dance. So I'll be at the back with the bride as she's kind of walking down the aisle with her dad, shots of her from behind, shots of, the groom kind of over their shoulders. They're walking down. But meanwhile, Josh is up front, crouched down. And we do this dance because everyone is looking backwards. So he's able to kind of come up to the front and shoot back down the aisle without really being seen. Yeah. And so as they come up, he does a little dance where he goes back off to the side. And we just kind of do this little rotation around everything. And
I'm usually, and this is usually as intrusive as I get, is I'm crouched in front of the mother of the groom, shooting very, very narrowly down the aisle, for about the first half of the bride coming down the aisle, and then I'm out of there. So as soon as they're like starting to become aware of my presence, I'm gone.
Sure.
You guys always feel like a well-oiled machine. I mean, I think it's clear. Obvious, and obviously your relationship would lend towards that. It's great to watch you guys work. Yeah. How many images of the average wedding do you think you collect?
Oh, that's a great question. Are you ready?
Because I think it's got to be
take a breath.
Nuts. You take a guess. Tell me what you think.
So there's two of us.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm gonna say 2,200. Or 2,200.
That's how many we take?
Yeah, how many
for a whole day?
Raw for a whole day. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's probably pretty low.
I'm gonna, based on your reaction and the way your eyes shamed Austin.
Right.
I'm gonna say that in a day, both of you will take 7,000 photographs together combined.
Ding, ding,
so
ding,
35
ding,
each.
ding.
Is that right?
That's right.
So
God.
it's a bit of a range these days. So one we did a few weeks ago, we actually took 9,900.
It must be just a huge ordeal to sift through all that raw data and find what you...
Yeah, it is.
I don't do it. That's all Josh.
So like I always say, people ask me this question. I say it's 10,000 decisions. You got to go through them one at a time and say yes or no. And in general these days we'll cull it down to about. I mean, it's the number. I feel like it grows, but it's 2,000. I mean, give or take a couple hundred. That will,
That's what you end with.
Yeah, to deliver.
So the bride gets 2,000 photographs.
Correct. Yeah,
I had no idea.
And
That's
so
amazing.
And we try to help out. We subdivide. Here's all your details. Here's all your portraits. Here's all your reception photos. That kind of thing. And it makes it a little bit more digestible. But what Aaron was saying about the mirrorless cameras. Honestly, we used to take 5,000 or 6,000, but now because the technology has gotten better, we just have more good photos, and so it's like I'm not gonna hold back. I'm just gonna deliver them, and we don't deliver 30 of the exact same thing, but there's more solid content there, and so we just deliver it and pass it on to the bride.
Are there any developing technological innovations it's not the first time on the podcast I'm going to say the word AI, but anything like that that's kind of on the rise that is going to help you go through 10,000?
Yeah. So the culling. So there are some AI services that cull photos. I haven't tried any of them, mostly because I've seen all of the terrible quote unquote decisions that they make. It's like I can't leave that, because I will then feel compelled to go back through them to make sure I made the right choice, which I should just be making the choices myself.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So my current process is actually I'll go through all the photos and then I'll upload those to an AI service, and it has been trained on tens of thousands of our edited photos. And so it will kind of follow. It's like, okay, you like these a little warmer, you like these outdoor shots a little more on the green side than the magenta all these slight differences, and it'll go through and make the edits. And so when I'm going back through 2,000 photos, it's a lot easier. I will still go. I still look at all of them, make some slight adjustments, but I'm not making these huge, gross adjustments for where we went from inside to outside and the colors all wacky, and it's already done all that kind of stuff. And so it's saved me many hours per wedding. I don't know what that number is, but it definitely helps, especially given the number of photos we take.
And at that point, if it does something really wacky to a great photo, you can be like, well, no, we're not going to do that, and then go back and
and I'll go back through and it's like, actually, this one deserves to be in black and white, and and do some different stuff and kind of introduce some, call it human creative post processing into the set.
That's cool.
So something I've been seeing lately, really within the last year, kind of a new sort of vendor in the photography world is the content creator. And specifically, what that means is someone who is literally taking images and video to be used for social media content. Have you worked with have you worked with this new kind of vendor?
Okay, so yes and no.
The simple answer is no.
No, but we have had some planners that have not brought on content creators, but acted as content creators. And I think there's a right way to do it, and I think there's a wrong way to do it. And the right way to do it is to create more of in my opinion, like a behind the scenes of the day. And like you said, not replacing photography, not replacing videography.
Like get all the stuff in between everything, that kind of thing.
Like I'm cool with that, but I don't know. I'm definitely no, this is bad. Don't do it.
It feels problematic, and I'll tell you why. Because I think
I can tell you why too.
Right. Someone who as another vendor outside of what you guys are doing, we see this complicated and very thoughtful dance of an interaction between you and the guests, and you're present, but you're not blocking and it's choreographed. And I can't imagine an influencer or content creator not just like trouncing around in front of sight lines and just taking every picture and having that be, because I imagine that it's taken you quite a while to kind of get that dance of where you need to be. And
that's a dance we do with videographers pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And some are better than others.
Right.
And we just gel with some better than others. But
I'm against it. I'm just going to go ahead and say
so
I don't like it.
Yeah, we haven't worked with anyone. So I will say we've done, I'll call it kind of like a hybrid kind of thing. And actually our daughter did it. At the request of...
was the content creator?
Yes.
How old is your daughter now?
She will be 16 tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, we've gotten so old.
Yeah, we have.
I think I met your daughter. She played a song on the piano for me.
Yeah.
And she was maybe 9. That was maybe like 15, 16 years ago, it seems.
But at the request of the bride, she had the bride's phone all day, and she even had like one of those little gimbal things, and followed him around and just did little video clips for her.
Could you see a transition in her? Was she like drinking a Diet Coke and smoking a Marlboro Red like in the corner, like by the end of the day? I
wouldn't have been surprised, but no. But she did awesome with it, and the bride, sure enough, she made her own little reels, little clips from the day, and I thought it was good, but it was more, it wasn't like in addition to us.
It's hard to hate your daughter though, isn't it? It's tough, right?
That's fair. I was like, get out of here. But it was a good hybrid between like a videographer and the content creator.
And the bride specifically, she said, "I don't want video," and I hate this for videographers because they're definitely, artists themselves and businesses themselves, but she just said, "I don't want a videographer. I just want clips on my phone. I just want something like small that I can enjoy and share instead of this like big production." And so that's when we were like, well,
see, that makes a lot of sense to me.
It makes sense.
It made sense to us.
And
right?
if you're, and wouldn't you want someone who kind of has at least some kind of bare minimal training of how to interact and how? So I personally think we're going to start to see a lot of these guys.
I know.
And I think that the gambit of like really cool, really professional, super appropriate to absolutely horrific is going to be all over the charts.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
But see, with Caroline, I could grab her by the back of the shirt and like yank her out of the way. Now, if I have that license with anybody else, like I'm down.
You are not going to. You are not going to have that license.
Have you guys ever agreed to do something wedding adjacent, like a bachelor party or a honeymoon sort of thing?
I have done a couple boudoir sessions. I have been strong-armed into doing boudoir photos the day of the wedding.
And it was sprung on you. Wow.
It was sprung on me.
Was it shocking or was it very sort of like tame?
It was demure. No, it was fine. It was just like yeah, I'll do it. Sure. Of course. Why wouldn't I do that? No, she was very, very kind about it. We
I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but I can't imagine a scenario where I would want to have like sexy shots of myself.
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
I feel like as a good Southern American, I was born with an appropriate shame about my body. I'm ashamed of my body.
Yes.
And I will go into the ground that way.
Same. Yeah.
But to each his own, I guess.
To have that confidence would be awesome.
The people that do it, I think, love it. I just found I've done a couple boudoir shoots and I just didn't love it. It just felt. I was just like, I want to go. Is it time? Let's go. Okay. Sorry. It was great to see you. I'm so sorry. Here's your money.
Did you have to kind of prompt them like you do? Like, let's get a little sexier. Let's get a little.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like the whole time. So, and not because of it. It was just my own discomfort.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure they were great, but yeah.
She looked gorgeous. I just wanted to throw up and run away.
Felt like you shouldn't be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the Southern, just take it to the grave.
I just can't. I can't figure out why somebody would want to have that of themselves. I don't know.
Posterity, maybe?
I guess. Yeah. To show your grandkids how hot you were, like I don't. There you go. Gotta look at Grandma's rack. No.
Oh man.
Oh. What about you? That's not really a thing on the dude side.
Boudoir.
A boudoir shot. Oh my God! TM. Yeah, that is boudoir shots.
Yes.
Nope.
That is 2026. I'm saying.
Yep.
New trends.
Boudoir.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm forced to believe it.
There is a photographer that she does offer boudoir for men.
Does she call him boudoir? Please tell me you wrote that just now.
I don't know.
I'm going to say
I
that's
think
a new original.
I feel
I think
like-
you wrote that.
I don't know.
We'll go with that for
I'll
now.
take ownership. How about that?
Well, I've got some questions for you when the mics turn off. So we're going to flesh this. We're going to flesh this out.
Oh, well, thanks.
Have you ever been asked to do something that's just so weird and so not appropriate that you either you couldn't do it or you just kind of did it and you knew it was going to be a bad idea and it was?
Yes.
Spill that tea. Spill that tea.
Oh gosh. Well, we've been asked to do twice. I didn't want to do it, but we did it anyways because it was important to the couple. They wanted a picture of their first kiss from the
yeah.
perspective of the pastor or whoever was marrying them. So they could see themselves
congregation.
and then the whole everybody behind them.
Okay.
So
Well,
That
all of
does
the
sound
guests.
kind of
That
nice.
idea, yeah.
It's a cool photo, but then you have to be up there and walk behind the wedding party as they announce, you may now kiss the bride, and then you're right in their face and you've got 200 people looking at you. Mm-hmm. And so the reason it's so uncomfortable is my mind goes to, what's everyone thinking? Are they thinking this photographer, how ballsy to get up there?
That makes a lot of sense.
Dare they?
That-
When in
I
fact-
never would have thought about it from that
The
direction,
funny
but that
thing
makes
is-
a lot of sense.
Oh man.
So
yeah.
she's the nervous one, but I'm the one that got elected to do it.
Oh no.
And you're fine with it.
That's fine. That's fine.
After your 10th boudoir shot that week, you're right. It's going to take more than this. All right, I've seen some stuff.
It's just worse. In the summer, doing that outside, and I've got to hold my arm up so that so they can, so I get the proper perspective. And
Yeah.
I'm a sweaty mess.
Oh, that armpit sweat.
Yeah, no, it's a rough it's a rough time. But yeah, I mean we've done that twice, and it was neat. But
The photos came out really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I would only ever do it by specific request.
Request.
You
Right.
you understand what this is.
Please sign off.
Yeah. So, but it was good.
Any requests ever to do sort of goofy shots that you're no, this is too much?
Oh, we've got so large firearms came out.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we had a wedding years and years ago. We didn't want to do it, but we did it anyways. They were we're going to bring our, what did they call it? Just guns, or did they say sidearm? They said it in a weird
those
way.
weren't sidearms?
They essentially said, we're going to bring our guns and we want everyone to pose with their guns. And Josh and I are thinking okay,
sure.
like a pistol. And then out come
Like a Charlie's Angels kind of
yeah,
thing.
and I'll come
But it was
shotguns.
it was the entire bridal party with AR-15s and shotguns.
Oh my gosh.
I was so uncomfortable
Yeah.
and just
And potentially afraid. You don't want to miss that shot.
and so that one was special.
Did you remember the presence of all those firearms around 10:30 after the alcohol had been flowing pretty heavily?
Yes.
Oh man.
Not a great
No,
mix of.
it went away. It was fine.
They were good.
So it's Joshua Aaron Photography. What is the best way to get in touch with y'all? And where can people follow you if they're not quite ready to start booking their wedding?
Yeah. Obviously Instagram, Joshua Aaron Photo. That's where I would say, post most of our content and put most of our energy.
And we'll link to all your socials in the show notes,
Yeah.
of course, and your website.
Yeah. And then just the website and Facebook and all the normal things.
Well, thank you guys again so much. It's been a blast, and we hope to have you back. So already start. I see a whole don'ts section next time, unless you want to flesh out this boudoir stuff, because I feel like we got another 2 hours in there.
Just think on that.
Think on it. Bring some sketches, and we'll talk. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Andrew Stinson, AIFD, your resident floral professional, here to advise you and give you tips on how to choose your colors and flowers for your wedding. Seasonal considerations. Flower availability is another crucial factor in picking your wedding flowers. Depending on the season, certain shades may be more readily available than others, and some flowers may not be in season in the region that you are located in. Being flexible within a color family allows your florist to work with the best options available, ensuring your arrangements are fresh and vibrant. Being adaptable can lead to unexpected yet delightful surprises, as your florist may introduce you to some blooms that perfectly complement your vision, even if they didn't match your original color palette exactly. If you're wanting tulips in October, probably not going to work. Same with peonies. Today's floral market, flowers are grown all over the world globally, but you're going to pay for them to be shipped to where you are. And as always, happy designing, y'all.
Hey, here with like a dear old friend, Nathan Vaughan of Ratio. Say hello, Nathan.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about, I've had many cocktails from this great guy who's actually been in charge of several of the great cocktail programs in Colombia. One of which my own.
Yes.
You put quite a few cocktails on the Bone and Barbecue cocktail list, didn't you?
I did.
Tell us where are you working these days?
I'm at Ratio, which is a Peruvian tapas restaurant in or near Elgin. I've never been quite clear on that. I think it is technically in Elgin, or maybe still in Colombia proper. I'm not sure. So I took over that program in March of last year, 2024, from my predecessor, Grant McCloskey, who was probably one of the more popular and renowned bartenders in Colombia. He was even written up in the Free Times when he left for Philadelphia. It was big shoes to fill, and I hope I've been doing well.
Well, I was literally just there for my birthday.
That's right.
And I put a hurtin' on that list.
Yeah.
I think I had maybe 3/4 of them, and I'm told I had a wonderful time.
Yes. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I remember that night, and I think we tried almost everything on the menu, and you guys had good things to say. It was a lot of fun.
So Nathan, something that I've been noticing in certainly in the event industry, really for 5 years, but also in the restaurant industry for about that same amount of time, actually, is this really big sort of interest in not just alternative beverages and mocktails, like one or two, but sometimes like whole lists. And I really love that, especially in the world of events for obvious reasons, and even more specifically for weddings, because weddings probably the longest. You're talking about a 4 to 5 to sometimes 6 hour reception. So there's a lot of consumption going on.
Yeah, I remember when I first started bartending. This must have been I think 2016 or something like that. And whenever anybody asked for, and this was a dive bar, but it was anytime anybody asked for a mocktail, you just kind of throw some juices together, some citrus, and
that's what I remember from my bartending days.
Yeah,
just that.
Yeah, and you just made it up on the spot every single time, and it was kind of not often asked for, so you didn't have to really write anything down. You're just like, okay, something. And nowadays, people are wanting more from their mocktail programs, and honestly, as you said, all alcohol sales pretty much in every category are trending downward, except for tequila. Tequila is the only spirit that anybody's really buying more and more of. Mocktail programs are really taking off in a big way. People want an option, something to sip on that looks like a cocktail, so that they can feel like they're participating in the event or the restaurant or the scene, and still feel like they're having fun. And it's just a really expanding category. So there's like fake spirits now, like Seed Lip, where you can get a fake tequila or a fake gin, or I should say zero proof or non-alcoholic gin. It's not fake. But it is. And then there's all these new ingredients that you'll see like on end caps in grocery stores, like margarita mix, but obviously that's always been on the shelves, but now you can get like really wacky ones, flavored like lavender or stuff like that. People are clearly wanting more out of their mixers too.
Right.
So I starting maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I started developing like mocktail programs at bars I was working at, and so those have gotten a lot more intense. Nowadays, there's a lot more science involved in making ingredients in programs. Instead of depending on your spirits to provide the vehicle flavor in a cocktail, then you're sort of expected to be like a cook or a even a scientist. If you're working on a program, you should be making your own syrups. You should be making your own citruses in a new and exciting kind of like I hate the word molecular gastronomical way. So yes, it is definitely in a long. The bullet point is that it's definitely the expanding space in this industry, in the beverage program industry.
And you really are you're really kind of getting in there and doing all this stuff from scratch, right? Like you're not using. I mean, I'm sure just some of these products you're using, but
definitely, yeah. I try to avoid it. The main reason being ratio is not the highest volume place, for instance, and a bottle of Seedlip. I don't know quite offhand how much it costs, but it's something like $35.
What is Seedlip?
Seedlip is it's a zero proof alcohol alternative. They have a tequila on the market that's pretty popular. I taste them, and I can see where they're going for. They do stand up in a cocktail. You can taste them, but if you taste them by themselves, they're kind of like, and I mean this in a not mean way, but they taste like hotel lobby water.
That's apt. I had an artificial or a faux gin, and I tasted juniper, I tasted some like floral stuff, but what was missing, and I'm curious if there's some how you're replacing this, because everything that I've ever tasted that was a faux mocktail or a faux cocktail, it was missing the sort of body that alcohol lends. So when you have a cocktail, the alcohol is not just there to get you buzzy, although that is a fun side effect. The alcohol lends sort of weight to the cocktail.
Yes.
It kind of controls the speed in which you consume it. It sort of changes how flavors sort of happen in your mouth. And I'm really curious as to what are you
Yeah, so with those zero proof alternatives, they often add things like glycerol or maybe xanthan, things like that to add body to the spirit. But then you're mixing this with a million other ingredients. And then so it becomes, I think the bartender is really the person in charge of getting those kinds of things into the mocktail or zero proof cocktail, as some bartenders like to call them.
I think it's probably safe to say that it's probably more challenging to create these really interesting mocktails using these kind of new ingredients and not being able to rely on these sort of ages of tried and true spirits.
So yeah, I do avoid the zero proof spirits mostly because of how expensive they are, and I do think that you can make them, especially if you've got an entire kitchen behind you that you can steal ingredients from and stuff. And I like to think about mocktails, and I sort of break them down into the component parts of a cocktail that you enjoy. Like you think about what you're enjoying about a cocktail as you're drinking it, and body is a major part of it. So I use things like orgeat, which is an almond syrup, which has an amazing mouthfeel. You get things like that. Tartness, citrus, those kinds of things. You would maybe go a little bit tartar than if you were making a cocktail with actual spirits. You would maybe add more citrus or citric acid to sort of make it more memorable, give it that feeling of like, oh, I'm tasting something. It makes you stop, as opposed to just it goes down easy. You want it. A mocktail should kind of still have that feeling of, oh wow, what is this? I mean, it should stop you mid-sentence, And then the other thing is, you start thinking about like almost as a chef or something. What's seasonal? What's popular right now? What do people want to drink? I always try to look at, like right now it's January, blood oranges are in season. So using blood oranges is a really good way to add a lot of color. That's another thing about mocktails. They should look visually arresting, because you're losing that burn and also the intoxicating effect of the alcohol. So you have to make up for it in every other aspect of the drink. It has to look beautiful. It should taste really memorable, and it should have that kind of, like I said, arresting kind of quality where, oh wow, what is in this?
And I think with weddings and events in general, but particularly weddings, you have a really good opportunity to take another component of the wedding reception and really sort of design it specifically for the bride and groom.
Yes.
And always for the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would recommend, asking your bartender or your beverage director, whoever is designing the cocktails and mocktails for your wedding, say like, I want this to look like this, or I want this to taste like this, and then let them go. Because if you say, I want something that looks like, that's something like a Moscow Mule, well, that sort of ties your hands behind your back. You can only basically do lime and ginger beer, maybe a fake spirit in it. And then I would say, I like something gingery. Don't say I want a Moscow Mule.
Gotcha.
I would recommend, telling them I want it to be in this kind of glass. Name the glass. What kind of glass do you like your drinks in? Do you like them in an up glass, like a Nick and Nora or coupe, or do you want it to look like an old fashioned or something like that? So yeah, I think that getting granular with the details of the drinks in the sense of what it looks like, but not what it is incorporating. Because then you're not going to get something creative,
Right.
or something that you remember.
Right. We've all seen now, for years and years, it's just part of the playbook to have a special, maybe in lieu of a full bar for various reasons. It could be budget. It could be just an understanding of how long your event's going to be and kind of wanting to control people. I think a special cocktail or a bride and groom's cocktail, a couple's cocktail, is a great thing. Something I don't see a lot are couples mocktails.
Yes.
And maybe along, in concert with special cocktails instead of it being a one or the other thing. So yeah, I think this is something that we definitely want to see more of. Are you available for bar catering, I guess I should say?
Yes, and people can email me or drop a line on my Instagram, which I'm sure will be available in some form.
Sure, we'll put that in the show notes.
I'm actually going to be doing our producers. Is that your role here?
Why not?
I guess so.
His wife's bridal shower. Yeah. / housewarming. Yeah, I'm doing a mocktail and a cocktail, and the only guidance was make it pink, and I was like, that's great, because now I can really kind of just do whatever I want. So that's the thing is, I would definitely recommend batching everything. There is an allure to the showmanship, the flair of a bartender shaking up a drink and stirring one up in front of you. I would recommend leaving that for if you're going to do an open bar program. So like somebody asks for a margarita, then they'll get shaken. But if they want one of the specialty cocktails, don't make your bartender, because everybody's going to be ordering specialty cocktails over and over again.
I feel very strongly about this. Yeah. Event cocktails, they need to be batchable. They need to be something that, and there's a lot of room to be creative and have some beauty with garnish and et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the work is done, in the back. But we need batchable cocktails. We need cocktails that aren't effervescent, dependent, things that can just happen quickly. Because when you got 250 people that have, just sat through your ceremony, people want to drink.
Oh, yeah. Every cocktail is batchable. I have not encountered one that you can always just add a little bit of club soda or Cremant or whatever if it's not a mocktail, to make it a little bit effervescent if you want. But I do in my bar program, I do something called dueling Mai Tais, which is two Mai Tais, two versions of the Mai Tai side by side. You get half portions. You can vote on which one's your favorite. I batch them completely, because then you can just pour it on ice and go. You can calculate how much water to add as if you were shaking, which is about 20% by volume water. If you were shaking a drink, then you just add that much water into the batch, and then boom, it's completely the same, except
is there some emulsification things that
and I could just shake the bottle too, it's like the bottle that it's coming out of, and then you'll still get that kind of like fizzy thing that you get like from a shaken margarita or whatever. So yeah, honestly, I would highly recommend batching everything that you can in a large format cocktail or mocktail program.
Thanks so much, man. There's a lot to consider there, and as you said, you are available for wedding catering, bartending catering, as well as drink creation.
Absolutely.
We look forward to having you back. Another great show, Austin.
Right back at you, Scott.
We want to thank our amazing guests,
Joshua and Aaron Moore of Joshua Aaron Photography, Nathan Vaughan from Ratio Restaurant, and Andrew Stinson of Waz Design Works.
And also thanks to our fantastic production assistant, David Vaughn.
Follow us on Instagram so you don't miss the next episode in 2 weeks.
Bye, y'all.
Take care, everybody.
And then I'll put another shirt underneath because I'm modest and I don't want to show my tummy, but then I'm gonna sweat.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's just me being neurotic.
Tear it away as the day goes on.
I go through pants like socks.
Like tear away clothes like a stripper.
Yeah, it's one-time use.
I love that. Now this is taking a Howard Sternish kind of turn. If you could just, for our audience, if you could take your top off, and I am, of course, talking to Joshua. He's doing it, dude. Oh yeah. Next time we're gonna have a soundboard with fart sounds and oh mommy, that sort of thing.